Welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. We're not just going to sit here and memorize a list of words. We're actually going to take a walk through an immersive virtual museum tour. And our goal? To really master the vocabulary of culture, expression, and the arts. By looking super closely at the architecture of these words, like their roots and suffixes, we're going to build a mental gallery that you literally won't forget.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the map of our metaphorical museum. We've got 5 main rooms today: the roots of culture, makers and their craft, visual arts and masterpieces, music and performance, and finally, words, rituals, and meaning.
So let's step right into room number 1, the roots of culture, where we're building the foundation of society. Right here at the entrance, we run into our first really foundational word, and that's civilization. It means a developed human society with its own culture and history. Now, the trick to remembering this one is focusing on the root word civil, which just means civilized. Add that suffix, and boom, it becomes the whole overarching structure of society itself. Just think about how the ancient Egyptian civilization left us these incredibly precious relics. That massive scale, that deep shared history, that's civilization. And from that massive concept of civilization, we get 3 core cultural foundations. First up is heritage. These are the things passed down to us from the past. A quick tip here, just break it down into herit, like inherit, plus the noun suffix age. Next, we have tradition. This represents the customs passed from one generation to the next. The root trad literally just means to pass on. And finally, diversity, which comes from the root diverse, meaning different or varied. So when you bring together our inherited heritage, our passed down traditions, and our diversity, it's what makes the world so vibrant and our spiritual lives so incredibly rich.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the linguistic pattern hiding in plain sight. Look at how we actually build these massive cultural concepts. We take a root action or state, like trad, to pass on, or civil, for civilized, and we just attach these powerful noun suffixes, like ishin or ization. Recognizing this brilliant memory hack is a real game changer. It makes mastering advanced vocabulary so much more logical. You're not just memorizing, it's like you're snapping together building blocks.
Let's transition into our second room, makers and their craft. This is all about the people behind the art.
Take a look at these 2 incredible creators. Over on the left, we've got the composer, the person who writes the music. Imagine a genius like Mozart, right? One of the absolute greats of Western classical music, just sitting at his piano. Then on the right, contrast that with the painter, the artist who takes bright colors and paint to capture, say, the beauty of nature on a canvas. They're using totally different mediums, but it's fundamentally the exact same human drive to create.
And linguistically, it's pretty cool because they share the exact same DNA. Notice the pattern we have here. You take the action root, so compose to write music or paint to apply color, and you just stick the suffix -er on the end. Instantly, you've transformed a verb into the title of a cultural creator. It is an incredibly reliable little rule when you're trying to describe the people actually making the art. Now, when these makers really pour their heart and soul into their work, we get this fantastic word. Read this with me. The delicate craftsmanship of this handmade porcelain makes it become a precious collection. Craftsmanship. It combines craftsman, meaning an artisan, with the suffix ship, which denotes a specific skill or quality. It really highlights the extraordinary, painstaking skill of making things beautifully by hand. But culture isn't just about making things the exact same way forever. Makers are constantly balancing these 2 opposing forces. On one hand, we've got the antique, an old object that's highly valued precisely because of its age. The root anti literally means before. Like, my grandfather collected antique vases that were well over 100 years old. But on the other hand, we have innovation, a brand new idea or method. This comes from the roots in, meaning to put into, and nav, meaning new. Honestly, culture thrives because we figure out how to preserve the anti, the before, while still bravely embracing the nav, the new. Moving right along to room number 3, visual arts and masterpieces. Welcome to the gallery experience. There is probably no word that captures the sheer awe of the visual arts quite like the Renaissance. This refers to a time of new life, growth, or a renewed interest in art and ideas. Look closely at how the word is built. Re means again, and nice means birth. It was literally a rebirth. It was this incredible period that revived classical art forms and sparked an absolute explosion of brilliant artists and breathtaking artwork.
Let's move to the next slide and see how this vocabulary builds on itself. If you're going to curate a great museum, you need this exact set of words. You start with a masterpiece, which is, quite literally, a master's piece of work. Then you evaluate it based on its aesthetic, meaning its sense of beauty and how it visually strikes you. Maybe that masterpiece is a sculpture, a word coming from the root sculpt, meaning carved work. You then take that carved work and place it in a gallery, the hall where art is meant to be seen. And finally, you present it to the world during an exhibition, a special event where objects are explicitly shown. See how logically all these concepts tie together? Just picture this scene in your mind for a second. This marble sculpture stands in the center of the square and becomes a landmark of the city. By anchoring the word sculpture in this highly visual real-world context, it stops being just some random vocabulary word on a page. It becomes a three-dimensional object right there in your memory. Okay, let's shift the energy as we enter room 4, music and performance, where we bring art to life.
So the crucial point here is how you can use sound and memory tips to really nail down this performance vocabulary. Take a look at this breakdown. Melody comes from mel, meaning sweet, and odi, meaning song, so a pleasant series of notes. Rhythm is super easy to remember if you just think of a rhythmic beat, a repeating pattern of sound. Opera connects directly to a grand performance venue where people sing a story. And drama immediately brings to mind a stage performance where a story is acted out. Recognizing these roots and sound connections, that is your absolute secret weapon for fluency here.
Now, let's visualize the stage itself. The performers are wearing costumes. The root cost is a great reminder that these are clothes made with a lot of care, effort, and expense for a very special event. We describe these performers as elegant, which comes from the root elig, meaning carefully chosen, resulting in something incredibly graceful. And the whole scene? It's vibrant. The root vibra literally means vibrating. It's an event just bursting with energy, life, and bright colors.
I actually love this next sentence because it perfectly encapsulates the entire energy of this room. I have watched a classic Italian opera and was shocked by the beautiful singing and gorgeous stage design. That right there is the pure magic of performance, isn't it? It shocks you, it moves you, and it just stays with you. But you know, all this brings up a really important question for us to ponder. Art and performance, they're often fleeting. The play ends, the music eventually stops. So how do we pass these vibrant traditions to the next generation so that they're never forgotten? That brings us to our final room, words, rituals, and meaning. These are the stories that bind us. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we bind society together. Look at how we handle stories. Folklore combines folk, meaning ordinary people, with lore, meaning stories and knowledge. We preserve these stories in literature, which are works built from the root liter, meaning letters. Sometimes this takes the really beautiful form of poetry, the art written by a poet. But we also bind ourselves together through our actions. A ceremony is a grand, formal event that shows respect for guests, and a ritual is a very specific set of actions done the same way every time, kind of like a religious blessing step. Think about this fantastic cultural anecdote. The traditional ritual of making mooncakes is an important part of the Mid-Autumn Festival in China. It is just a perfect demonstration of a ritual in action. It's this specific set of actions, performed the exact same way over generations, that gives a special event its true, deep meaning. Ultimately, every symbol word we've explored today is a way to symbolize the human experience. To symbolize means to represent an idea or quality. It takes the root, symbol, and adds that verb suffix, "ize." Just as the color red symbolizes joy and good luck in traditional Chinese culture, the art, the sculptures, the melodies, and the literature that we've talked about today, they all symbolize who we are as a society. Well, we've walked through the entire museum today, from the deep, ancient roots of civilization right up to the vibrant, loud stages of the opera. You now possess an incredibly powerful vocabulary toolkit. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look around your own world. Which unique cultural masterpiece will you choose to describe today using your new words? The gallery is yours to build. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.